Seriously?
Hey guys, and welcome to the first in a new series of Ork Tactics videos with myself, 6+ Stevo. So we've got the new Ork Codex, we've got the new Ork data cards, there has been a few changes since the index, and I am here to go over all of them. And we're going to start with these gits, the boys. Where else do we start, eh? So, the boys, they come in at 85 points for a squad of 10. And their stat line is as follows. Movement 6 inches, toughness 5, 5+ save, 1 wound, leadership 7+, and a nice objective control of 2. The boss knob is the exact same stats, except he does have 1 more wound. They have the keywords infantry, battle line, mob, grenades, and boys. So let's take a look at the options that they have. So the unit composition, you get 1 boss knob and 9 to 19 boys. They are all armed with sluggers and choppers, and the boss knob is armed with a slugger and a big chopper. But the boss knob can change out his big chopper for a power claw, and he can change out both weapons for a combi shooter and a close combat weapon. The boys can all swap out their slugger and chopper for a shooter and a close combat weapon, and 1 boy in the squad, or 2 if you're running a squad of 20, can change out their weapons for either a big shooter or a rocket launcher. So before we go anywhere else, let's take a look at the weapons they've got. So sluggers, range 12 inches, 1 attack, 5+ ballistic skill, strength 4, 0 AP, 1 damage. Yeah, sluggers, they ain't the best, they're not great, but they're useful for one reason: you can shoot them while you're in engagement range. So quite a nice little thing to have. You chip off the occasional wound here and there, only really against chaff units. You might get lucky with a few other shots, but yeah, don't expect too much from sluggers. It's the choppers where the real fun is, because boys armed with choppers, they get 3 attacks, hitting on 3s, strength 4, they've got a nice AP of -1, that really does buff them up nicely, and damage 1. Alternatively, you do have the shooter option, which is the shooter is a rapid fire 1 weapon, has 18-inch range, 2 attacks, ballistic skill 5+, strength 4, no AP, and 1 damage. So the shooters, they're not great, but as we'll look into a little bit later, there is ways now, finally, in the new codex, where you can buff your shooter boys and actually make them quite viable. I would say though, if you were running any kind of army that wouldn't confer those buffs, shooter boys really aren't worth it. Slugger chopper boys generally, if you're just having vanilla boys with no sort of buffs or enhancements or whatever in there, then slugger chopper boys are definitely the better option than the shooter boys. I personally really like shooter boys. I'll always use them because they fit the theme of my army, and I think they're fun, I think they're cool. But yeah, I can't with any... I can't say that they're better than slugger chopper boys or even as good. But we do have ways to make them just as good, or possibly even better. Then you've got the big shooter option that one of them can take. That is a rapid fire 2 weapon, nice 36-inch range, gets 3 shots, strength 5, so you've got a little bit more strength, no AP on it though, and just 1 damage. So big shooters are quite good. The reason to take big shooters is to have that range. You know, if you're a long way off, you know, the squad can still do something, pop off a few shots with that. And if they get within that 18-inch range, then they're shooting 5 shots. So not bad, but again, big shooters, don't expect a huge amount from them. The other option is the rocket launcher, which is a blast weapon. Now, the rocket launcher is a good choice to take. You get D3 attacks, it's strength 9, which is fantastic, AP -2, and it is a flat damage of 3. So I would strongly urge a lot of people to pop rocket launchers into their boys squads. It just gives you a nice bit of punch in the shooting, a nice little surprise for opponents that possibly aren't expecting it. Rockets, really nice. Rockets are just so good. And then for your boss knob, we've got the combi weapon. Unfortunately, GW didn't fix combi weapons. We were hoping they would fix them after the index, but this is not just us, this is across all factions. Combi weapons are just a bit naff now. Anti-infantry 4+. Okay, that's nice. They got devastating wounds, which is also nice. Rapid fire 1, 24-inch range, 1 shot. So within 12 inches, you're getting 2 shots. Strength 4, meh. AP nothing, damage 1. So it's basically a really crappy gun, but with the special rules, you do have some nice buffs in there. So anti-infantry 4+ combined with the devastating wounds. Yeah, that's pretty nice, but look, you're getting 1 shot, or 2 if you're in half range. You're probably going to miss with them most of the time anyway. And so you're really just looking to target infantry and get that 4+, or even if you're targeting a vehicle, the devastating wounds, they're just not great weapons anymore. They're really not. It's such a shame what they've done with combi weapons. I really wish they'd kept combi scorchers and combi rockets as your options. It would have been so much better and made so much more sense. Also for your boss knob though, you've got the choice of Big Chopper, which gets you 3 attacks, hitting on 3+, strength 7, AP -1, and damage 2. And then the Power Claw is also 3 attacks, but you're hitting on 4s, strength 9, AP -2, and damage 2. Most people opt for the Power Claws, and I can see why. The strength 9 is really nice. The extra AP is lovely. I don't like the fact that it hits on a 4. I generally prefer big choppers. You're still getting the same damage, a bit less AP, a bit less strength, but hitting on 3s. And if you've got characters in the unit or buffs that are upping their weapon skill, then you're going to be hitting on 2s. So for me, I prefer the big chopper, but I think it's pretty much subjective. I think they're both very viable weapons and both very good. So there we go. That is the weapons they come with. The abilities they've got a new ability now that they didn't have in the index, and this is bloody lovely. It's called Get the Good Bits. At the end of your command phase, if this unit is within range of an objective marker you control, that objective marker remains under your control even if you have no models within range of it, until your opponent controls it at the start or end of any turn. So they've got sticky objectives now, basically. Once you claim the objective, the boys can then move on, carry on fighting, claiming other objectives, and that objective still remains in your control until the enemy puts a stop to that. This is a really nice ability for the boys. This has really buffed them and made them tactically very useful on the tabletop. Boys are good. They're great in combat. They can be really good, especially when you combine them with some of the buffs and things. So when you keep them sitting on an objective and missing out on some of the fighting and the crumping, it's quite disappointing. This solves that problem. Grab the objective, move on, carry on crumping stuff, carry on scoring. This makes this unit a really good unit in game. Not only can they punch hard and give a good fight, but now they've got the tactical benefits of holding on to objectives and scoring big points in game. We like that. We think that's fantastic. And it doesn't stop there. They've got some other buffs as well. They've still got the special rule Bodyguard that they had in the index. If this unit has a starting strength of 20, you can attach up to 2 leader units to it instead of 1, but only if one of those is a war boss model. This is awesome, and I'm so glad they didn't get rid of it. I'm so glad they kept it. It's really nice to stack the buffs on the boys. You stick a war boss in there, giving them the +1 to hit in combat. You could put a big mech in there with them, add in that mobility, and shooting buffs. You've got a pain boy in there to make them more resilient. You know, you've got quite a lot of options there to mix around with the various characters that you can plug into this unit. And that was one of their big strengths in the index. And I'm so glad it remains now. It's very, very cool indeed, because we've got a lot of characters to choose from. War Boss is really, really good. And a lot of the other characters are really good too. So, you know, combining them with all those characters really does make an already good unit even better. So yeah, if you're running mobs of 20 of these gits, they can be a really, really hard hitting unit, which is fantastic for your basic grunt infantry battle line unit. Really awesome. So yeah, there we go. There is the boys. Now we've got the new codex now, and you know what that means. That brings us new detachment rules. We've got new options. So what detachment are the boys best in? Well, the obvious one is obviously the Green Tide detachment. The Green Tide offers so many different buffs to this unit. It's all about boys before toys. It's your classic Ork army. And so yeah, if you wanting to field loads and loads of boys, if you want to have like 6 squads of 20 of them, I would highly recommend the Green Tide. There's so many different stratagems. There are 6 stratagems basically that all just affect the boys in that detachment. All very good. Gives them some really, really nice abilities. You've got the Come On Lads stratagem, which allows you to return up to D3 plus 2 lost models from your army. The army-wide buff of Green Tide gives you a 5+ invuln save. Not just during the war, all game, 5+ invuln save. That's really, really, really good. Just from playing the game through the index and knowing that during the war, that 5+ invuln save that lasts a whole battle round can really help keep a lot of stuff alive. The fact that you have that all game is really good. And if you've got squads of over 10, then you can re-roll the saving throws of 1 to those saves as well, making this unit much, much more resilient. And then on top of that, there's lots of character enhancements and things you can do. So that's the obvious one, the Green Tide. But that's not the only one. We've got the classic one, the War Horde, which carries over from the index, which was previously called the War Tribe. Has also got some really, really nice stratagems that you can use with these boys. You've got the Arda's Nails one, which nerfs the enemy, having a -1 to wound. When that stacks with their already pretty good toughness 5, makes these boys really hard to bring down. So yeah, that's a really, really good one. And then of course you've got the old classic Unbridled Carnage, which is always welcome. Always really, really good. So yeah, that was probably the War Horde would be the next sort of most obvious one. But also, don't count boys out if you're running a Dread Mob. If you plug a mech or a big mech into this unit, then you can gain the buffs there. And this is where you can really buff your shooter boys. And it's probably really going to be the only detachment that's really going to make shooter boys viable, by having a mech in there and conferring the buffs there. So you can be getting your sustained hits or your lethal hits or your bonuses to armor penetration. And if you've got something like your mech's got Press It Faster, where you can push it, that confers that double buff and benefit to the whole unit. And suddenly shooter boys become a lot more dangerous. If they're suddenly getting some decent AP on those shooting attacks or the sustained hits on them, then yeah, they start to actually pose a bit more of a threat. I still don't think it's still gonna be a bit random. If you push it, then you could be risking some mortal wounds and things on them. But yeah, generally I think this is the way to go if you're going to run shooter boys. Stick them in a Dread Mob, plug a mech into them, gain those buffs. Your other option as well is, of course, the Cult of Speed. If you plug your War Boss into that, or any other character, it doesn't have to be a War Boss, but any character, you can effectively make good old truck boys. This means that even if the truck has moved, they can get out, they can shoot, they can charge, and that's the only way to do that. So if you want boys loaded in a truck, flying up the field, getting out, charging, pretty much guaranteeing you a turn 1 charge, yeah, then the Cult of Speed is for you. plug a character with faster than use in there, and you're going to get that. So yeah, boys, looking really, really good at the moment. I'm impressed with them. I think they've had a bit of a buff with this new codex, just from getting those sticky objectives, and we've got some new options with the detachments, new characters, new enhancements, new stratagems, etc. All of it just means more options for our boys, more powerful boys, more tactically useful boys. Boys, 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 they are awesome. They're the heart and soul of any Ork army. Guys, let me know what you think of the boys. Do you think they're better now than they were in the index? And how do you plan to run them? What characters do you want to plug into them? What detachment are you going to use with them? And let me know if you come up with any sort of sneaky tactics or anything, or any nice combinations. Let us know in the comment section below. I'm sure everyone watching this video would love to know. But that's it for the first one, guys. Like I said, this is going to be a whole series going forward. I'm going to cover every single data card in detail, talk about the various options and things they have, and I will finish it this time. I did this for the index. A lot of you will already know this. You've been following along with them. I ran out of time before the codex dropped, so there was no point finishing that playlist. I did still have just a handful of data cards still to go on that, but we're getting in early this time. The codex has only just dropped, so as long as GW don't bring out a new codex in the next 6 months or so, we'll be all right. But anyway, that's this one. What are we going to look at in the next video? Well, we've done the boys. Next time, let's take a look at their weedy little cousins, the Gretchen. And I've got quite a bit to say about these gits, because I think they've had a beautiful buff as well. But we'll talk about that on the next one, guys. For now, this is 6+ Stevo, signing out.